Today we're going to go over some interview questions that we can ask while interviewing somebody who may have autism. People who have autism, they a lot of times experience different language and social communication issues, and they might find it difficult to consider other people's perspectives, recount events in particular context, and they a lot of times rather focus on small details. They have a hard time a lot of times expressing feelings through their tone or voice, and have difficulty using appropriate body language or gestures. They may also not always maintain eye contact, and it's very hard for them to understand personal space. It's a lot of times best if we can help prepare people who have autism for their interviews as well. Some suggestions that we can go about is having like a pre-interview visit, let them visiting the office to get familiar and to get their mind at ease. Set expectations when we have them on the telephone or when we're setting the appointment for their interview. Let them know what's going to go on ahead of time. We may also share questions in advance, give them time to prepare. A lot of people find it difficult to process answers right on the spot. So if we can help prepare them to be able to see, hey, these are some of the questions that we're going to ask, it will help out greatly as well. Minimize disruptions and wait times. We also need to help ourselves to make plans that will adapt, that might have different language barriers. Offer a different type of interview mode as well. Maybe if we're able to, phone, video, even a written interview as well. Observe the body language for nonverbal cues during the interview as well. Might be a lot of times that things are going on that we're not getting to recognize, that they might have. People with autism a lot of time have tapping, or they have what they call stems. Might be pulling on their fingers a lot of times as well, different things on that. That would be things to look at. Supply writing surfaces if they're needing time to write down questions or answers as well. When in doubt, just ask for clarification if we're not able to understand the answer to a question. Don't use vague, generalized questions as well. And we're going to go over some of the questions that would be great to ask as well. And don't require multitasking. A lot of times we're given 2 or 3 different things to do during the interview, and it can be overwhelming for somebody who is on the autism spectrum. Different questions that we can come about to ask is, instead of just saying, I'm going to tell me about yourself, let's go ahead and ask, I'm going to ask you to give a short introduction about yourself. And then let's break it down, because if we can break it down into simpler things, it's going to go along a better way. So I'm going to ask you to give a short, brief introduction about yourself. What are some of your best personal characteristics? What are your educational qualifications for this particular job? What work experience do you have? Instead of just saying, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses, say, I'm going to ask you about your strengths. What are you best at? What would you classify as your main strength? How have you used these strengths in previous positions of employment? Instead of saying, tell me about a time where you've had to complete task in a short amount of time, another way to come about that is to ask, think of an example of when you had lots of tasks to complete in a limited amount of time. What was that situation? What different strategies did you use? Were these strategies effective? Another way we could go about is Think about a time that you disagreed with a coworker. What was it about? What did you do to resolve that issue? Another thing we can ask is, think of an example when you solved a problem at work. What was that particular problem? What did you do to solve it? And what was the final result? A lot of times, standard employed questions can contain questions that have little or explicit structure, and they're difficult for autistic candidates to interpret, and it limits their ability to formulate a response that conveys their best abilities. Just changing around the wording and asking one part of the question at a time and getting an answer and then moving on to the next part is a great way to get the best interview out of somebody who may have autism. Thank you.